morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Wacky and Weird Wednesday, the episode of the week where we cover the weird and wacky news that we found, the oddities, the mind-boggling stories that you're just like, wow, humanity exists and they're doing this with it. So, welcome to the Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we've started and we haven't had any caffeine. Let's look at these weird people in the headlines. Today on Before Coffee, scientists call out auction house for selling a skull from Benin. Finland's first hand transplant was performed in Helsinki.
80 years ago, band leader Glenn Miller disappeared and it still remains unsolved.
A star pictured hiccuping for the first time could solve the universe's mysteries.
And the James Webb telescope spots more than 100 new asteroids between Jupiter and Mars, and some are headed towards Earth.
And in culture news, let's talk about the weird and wacky show of The Simpsons on its 35 years of being on air.
And it's National Twin Day, so if you got a twin, just slap that ugly bastard on the back and say, Happy Twin Day. No, not just kidding, you're not ugly. It's December 18th, 2024, and Before Coffee.
I wanted to read a story by Haystack, but I forgot to read that headline. So, how long was this story? Okay, we'll read. Let's talk about the skull and the hand. Yes, since those are both related. Finland. In a wacky world of weird surgeries you can perform. We've had head surgeries, we've had eye transplants, and now we have hand transplants. This is in Finland by Tina Aspelach on Yele.fi. Probably stands for .finland. Tina Aspelach. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. I don't know Suomi. Okay. Finland's first hand transplant was performed at the Melati Bridge Hospital in Helsinki in November, according to the HUS group, which is responsible for healthcare in Helsinki and Uusimaa. Surgery took about 17 hours to perform and went according to plan. The hand transplant was performed on a patient who had both his hands and feet amputated years ago. The transplant was performed at a level of the patient's forearm, so around here, around their elbow. According to the press release, a hand transplant requires 3 separate surgeries. The hand must be removed from the donor, the recipient must be prepared surgically, and then the hand must be attached. First, the bones and blood vessels are attached, then the tendons and nerves, among other things. After the surgery, the patient was in intensive care for about a week. That's not too bad when you have an entire body part put on yourself. And in the ward for several weeks. He is now being discharged from the hospital. The patient faces more than a year of rehabilitation and several follow-ups to visit the hospital. Yeah, you gotta make sure those nerves are working, those blood vessels are pumping. You can do all that movement. According to the HUS, it is still too early to assess, among other things, the patient's finger flexion and extension movement, sensation, grip strength, and fine motor skills. Oh yeah, that's the scary part because your hands are very delicate. But if they're still new, you punch somebody in the face by accident. Which happens a lot in Finland.
Horror movie in the making.
The press release states that the HUS doctors practiced surgery on deceased people and became familiar with hand transplant operations in other countries. The first hand transplant was actually performed in France in 1998. Since then, approximately 120 hand transplants have been performed in the Western countries. Now that the first hand transplant has successfully performed, the next step is to establish an operation as part of the HUS services, says HUS Chief Medical Officer Markku Makabjarvi in a press release. So congratulations, give them a hand, you could say, on getting another successful hand transplant.
You really got to hand it to them.
Some people think the cyberpunk reality isn't real, but it really does seem like soon we're being able to swap eyes and swap hands and maybe in our heads. and just rebuild our entire body from scratch. Are you still yourself if all your body parts belong to someone else? I don't know.
That's a very good question.
That's the riddle. Okay,
Well, your
so
mind, your mind is yours.
From selling hands to selling skulls, another auction house, this time in the Netherlands, decided, yeah, selling body parts, that's a normal thing to auction off. This is from Hanneke Sanau on Dutch News. An international group of 200 scientists and experts in looted art are protesting the sale of last month of a skull belonging to a member of the Faun people from Benin by Amsterdam auction house The Swan, which is the Swan in English. The skull, which was described at auction as a power object, oh no, it's used for all sorts of rituals, was sold for only 800 euros, according to the protesters, who included scientists from the University of Berlin, Benin, and Cameroon. The skull may have been stolen from an ancestral shrine. Selling such objects goes against the mourning rituals of West African countries. Wow, these guys really like this skull. I'm stealing it and selling it on auction. The letter writer said the auction house should remove any skulls and body parts of African people from any current or future auctions. The Perul quoted the letter as saying, yeah, I think you should give them back, and if they want to sell the body parts, let them. According to Dutch looted art specialist Jos van Buurden, who also signed the letter, the auction house cannot be held legally liable, but that morally speaking, it is no longer acceptable to trade any human remains that have most likely been looted in colonial times. Exactly. Van Buurden said it is surprising how little is being done to prevent trade in human remains. If you want to go through customs carrying a skull with feathers and shells, you will be stopped. Not because of the skull, but because it is illegal to import indigenous shells and feathers, told the paper. Flora and fauna are better protected than people. Yeah, isn't that? As a woman, are you surprised? I'm not. According to Van Buurden, skulls regularly come up for sale, including prestigious auction houses, and can fetch up to 100,000 euros at auction. The Swan, which according to its website specializes in tribal art, which is already suspicious, has not commented on questions about the origin of the skull or the protest. So, no news from the auction house. They're just gonna keep their, eyes covered, ears covered. With this, we're gonna continue selling skulls.
And eyes and ears.
Yeah. And hands. To Finland, I guess.
And right.
So that's my story. That's my story here. From
Hear no evil, see no evil.
The body news, the wacky and weird body news, and on to your story.
All right, so we're gonna talk about Glenn Miller, famous band leader. If you don't know who Glenn Miller is, he's very famous back then, probably the biggest star in big band era, which probably as big as Elvis, let's say, for instance.
Yep.
This is from NPR. NPR, as they say in Boston. Julian Ring of NPR. NPR.com. Glenn Miller. It was Christmas Day, 1944, when people heard the news. Glenn Miller, one of the biggest stars, had vanished. He had boarded a military plane from Britain, bound for Paris, where he'd be scheduled to perform the American troops during World War II, but neither crew nor passengers made it to the English Channel. There's no wreckage of Glenn Miller's plane and no definitive answers. 80 years ago this week, he disappeared without a trace. Miller wasn't even supposed to be on board the small prop plane. Isn't it always one of those small prop planes, right? It's always this, look at old Betsy in the air, But anxious to get going after multiple weather delays, he hitched a ride without authorization. It took days for anyone to realize he'd gone missing. The rest of the band eventually arrived in France, and on Christmas Day, as news of Miller's disappearance hit the papers, they played their show without the man who had brought them together in the first place. He was the king of swing. Hair in my mouth. He was the king of swing. Glenn Miller was the human embodiment of the big band era. By 1939, his orchestra had become America's most popular musical act. Hits like In the Mood and Chattanooga Choo Choo sold millions of copies, earning Miller the first ever gold record and acclaim from his peers. But behind Miller's success, a world war was raging. So in 1942, at the height of his billion stardom, he traded his suit and baton for a uniform, enlisting as a captain in the U.S. Army Air Forces. There's a lot of swell guys in the outfit I'm going in, he said to the audience during the performance, and maybe all of us can get together again after this thing's over. That outfit was the American band of the Allied Expeditionary Forces, most commonly known as the Army Air Forces Band, an ensemble of 50 musicians founded at General Dwight D. Eisenhower's request. As band leader, Miller's mission was to boost the morale of American soldiers stationed across Europe with music. The band spent up to 18 hours a day recording and performing at dozens of military bases. There was a lot of hard work, a lot of hard times, a lot of bad, dangerous traveling, and it wasn't clear that he was going to make it as a band leader. NPR's Noah Adams said in 2002, but Miller's efforts paid off. For soldiers, the band became a symbol of American resilience and of home. The Army promoted Miller to the rank of major, and just a few months later, on December 15th, 1944, he vanished. Peanuts Hiccup played the clarinet in the Army Forces Band. He recalled the state of the confusion at Orly Field in France when they arrived 3 days behind with Miller nowhere to be found. It was a mess, really a mess. He told Noah Adams, all these soldiers around, the weather was terrible, it was raining and there was mud all over the place. A missing plane might have raised more alarms, but the day after Miller took off, the Battle of the Bulge started in Belgium. So the Battle of the Bulge, you mentioned that yesterday. The planes were going out, and you see these soldiers, they're sending them back to the States in their cases. They call them stretcher cases. Oh, okay. Hucko said, several hours after the band touched down, Army Lieutenant Don Haynes, their manager, tried to find information on Miller's whereabouts. Eventually, he gathered the men. Guys, I don't know how to tell you this, but Glenn is officially missing. He never arrived in Paris. Hucko remembers the room falling completely silent. It's still unofficial, but it doesn't look good, Haynes said. The plane, it is now speculated, encountered freezing temperatures and heavy cloud cover, and a navigational or mechanical failure likely downed it in the channel. But next to Amelia Earhart, the fate of that aircraft remains the 20th century's most notorious aviation mystery. Glenn Miller was 40 when he disappeared, but his star didn't fade. The Glenn Miller story, a dramatization of his life starring Jimmy Stewart, was a box office smash in 1954, and while the Army Air Forces Band played its last concert in 1945, its successor, the Airmen of Note, continues to perform Miller's songs for fans around the world. So, and today we have kids in the audience standing up and cheering when they hear In the Mood, Jackson told NPR in 1994, and I think it's as long as his music is being played, I don't see it declining. It's always going to be around, and future generations will be coming up and standing up in the audience is just as loud. Yep, he had a lot more hits besides In the Mood and Chattanooga Choo Choo, but those might be his two more famous ones, right? I know them, but I grew up with my mom and dad playing that stuff.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, In the Mood. Andrew's Sisters a hit with it. They added words to it, right? I think it was the Andrews Sisters, but it was a girl group had a hit with it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was it. But anyway, there's your story, Glenn Miller.
There's your
You don't
story.
know what happened, but he was, imagine a musician volunteering for the Army these days. I just don't know if that's going to happen.
Maybe he just lived out his days somewhere in France. I don't know.
Elvis had to be drafted. He didn't
Yeah.
volunteer.
Okay, from finding an artist in a plane to finding hay in a haystack. Here we go. This is the story.
It's easy to find hay in a haystack.
It's
a
easy
big
to find
stack
hay
of
in a haystack. This is on Get Pocket by Kevin Harnett. The first time Kevin heard a mathematician use the phrase, find hay in a haystack, he was sure they misspoken. We were on the phone talking about the search for shapes with certain properties, he said. It's like looking for hay in a haystack. Don't you mean needle? Kevin interjected. But then that mathematician said it again. With mathematics, it turns out, conventional modes of thought sometimes get turned on their head. The mathematician Kevin was speaking to was Dave Jensen of the University of Kentucky. They really did mean hay in a haystack. By it, Dave was expressing a strange fact about mathematical research. Sometimes the most common things are the hardest to find. In many areas of mathematics, you're looking for examples of something, and examples are really abundant. But somehow, anytime you try to write down an example, you get it wrong, said Jensen. The hay in a haystack phenomenon is at work in one of the first objects that kids encounter in mathematics, the number line. Points on the number line include the positive and negative integers such as 2 and negative 29, rational numbers, ratios of integers like, oh god, I don't know any of this stuff. I never passed pre-calc. Latex, flash frac. I think this is too difficult for my brain to understand. There's rational numbers and there's irrational numbers, like just a bunch of random letters and numbers. They're irrational. They're wacky and weird. Let's go with that. They can't be expressed. Rational numbers occupy the vast majority of space on a number line. So vast, in fact, that if you were to pick a number on the number line at random, there's a literally 100% chance it will be irrational. My phone fell down. I don't know why that keeps happening, but it's scary when it happens. I'm awake!
Yeah, nobody can explain gravity.
Yeah. Yet, despite the overwhelming presence of irrational numbers, we almost never encounter irrational numbers in our daily lives. Instead, we count with whole numbers and follow recipes with fractions. The numbers we know best are the extremely rare numbers, the special numbers, the needles in the haystack. The hay is hard to find precisely because it's so unexceptional. Rational numbers have the distinctive property that it is possible to write them down. They're the needle. This calls them to our attention. Irrational numbers have infinite decimal expansions. You couldn't write one down even with an endless amount of time. That these numbers lack the exceptional property of write-downableness is what makes them nearly invisible in our way of seeing. The search for the hay in the haystack characterizes many different areas of math, including the subject of the most recent article written by Kevin, which is Tinker Toy Models Produce New Geometric Insights. There, Kevin wrote about the mathematicians who are investigating the relationship between geometric shapes and the equations used to describe them. In rare cases, objects can be expressed by simple equations. These are the needles. These shapes we know best: line, parables, circles, spheres. The overwhelming preponderance of shapes resists such elegant formulation. They may be everywhere, but because you can't write down equations that describe them, it's hard to establish even a single one of them exists. Like the Nickelodeon shape. That has an irrational number assigned to it because it doesn't, you can't really, you can try to create some sort of geometric calculation to make a squiggly splash format, But you really can't write it down to be exact. In mathematics, it often happens that either something doesn't exist or exists in abundance. The nature of those abundant objects might make them hard to detect, but if you're a mathematician and you believe they're there, you believe they constitute almost all of everything, and your task is straightforward. And you just have to find one of them. Just find one of those hays in the haystack. That's if you were convinced the oceans were filled with water, said Ragnathan. But every time you took a sample, you came up with something else. A shock, a rock, a shell, a rock, a plant. Yet to start to believe your hypothesis was correct, you hardly need an empty sea. All you have to do is find any water, he said. One droplet of water will do. Honestly, very similar to, this is why quantum mechanics are so hard to grasp. Because it's similar to dark matter. There's actually more dark matter than there is matter. It's all the space in between the dark matter that you can't see. Like right now, I'm going through dark matter, but I can't see it, but doesn't mean it's not there. Right? That's kind of what this idea of hay in the haystack is.
It's the glue that holds everything together.
Yeah. In more kind of quantum news, more like space news, a star has been pictured hiccuping for the first time, and it could solve the universe's mysteries, at least one of them. Maybe two. This is on The Independent by Jonathan McCambridge. The giant hiccuping star has been documented for the first time in the final stage of his life before exploding. The rare cosmic event, which only occurs with exceptionally large stars between 60 to 150 times the mass of our sun, has been predicted in the theory, but never seen before. So they've got their first kind of, guys, I think I'm about to explode. That bit right before you explode. Researchers said the confirming hiccuping stars is a major step in understanding how outsized stars work and how they have shaped the universe. The team documented a process called the pulsation pair instability, or PPI, in which massive stars develop very hot cores which contract and expand quickly in the final years of their lives. On each occasion the star pulsates, it ejects a shell material which strips down the core star. These shells can collide into each other, creating intense bursts of light. Lead author Dr. Charlotte Angus from Astrophysical Research Center ARC at Queen's University said the shell collisions are much fainter than the final supernova explosion, meaning it had previously not been possible to confirm the theory. They needed to get better telescopes and better measuring equipment. And like, oh, what's that little blip? What's that blip there? I don't know, zoom in on it. That star just hiccuped. Imagine hearing that. Hiccup. Hiccup. Explosion.
Yeah.
In December 2020, we identified a new bright supernova, now named SN 2020 ACCT, in a nearby spiral galaxy called NGC 2981. The light from the SN 2022 SN 2020 count disappeared pretty quickly. But then in February 2021, we saw light coming from the same region of the galaxy again. This is very unusual, as a supernova normally don't reappear. The team used telescopes around the world in Hawaii, Chile, South Africa, and the US to track the supernova. They found that the first time it appeared, its light was being produced by slow-moving shells of material colliding near the star. Exactly what described. It was a hiccup. The astrophysicists then used modeling to confirm that the first flare was an example of this PPI hiccup. They said the star was around 150 times the mass of the sun and underwent a series of extreme pulses in its final 50 days before it exploded. And that must have been really cool to see. Just kind of the build-up and then the explosion. That the data matches the modeling predictions is incredibly exciting. That's right, they did some modeling and it was true. This is the first time that we've been able to obtain observations of a PPI candidate during the shell collisions, allowing us to confirm the first time that is what is really happening. Also involved in the project were astronomers from the University of California, Santa Cruz, and from 3 recent surveys: the Young Supernova Experiment, the Atlas Survey, and the Pan-STARRS, with 2 R's, survey. So good job, all of those astrophysicists and scientists and whatever you want to call them, discovering this.
What's the difference between the?
Sorry?
What's the difference between this and a pulsar?
What?
Did they explain that?
No.
A pulsar, it's kind of a emitting radiation from its magnetic field.
Yeah. And what's the other one?
What does that appear as? I wonder if that appears like that, like it's.
Yeah,
hiccuping,
I think that's way
like-
bigger. See, I think the argument there, or the thing they're saying here, is that this kind of hiccup is way smaller than a pulsar. It's super small. They thought what it was an explosion at first. They thought it was the supernova going off. Oh, that star just supernova. Okay, cool. But it wasn't a supernova.
No,
It was
still there.
actually the lead up to the supernova. But it was. I mean, it's so far away. What was it again? I don't think they even said how far away this star was when it supernovaed. Yeah, I don't think they said how many light years away it was, but it's far enough away that they thought that the PPI was an explosion, but it was actually just a smaller emission. So there you go. Hiccuping stars and hay in the haystacks. Let's go to your weird and wacky story.
Right on. We're going back into space again, closer to home. We're going to stay in our own solar system. Oh, I did send you a video, but it's on Facebook. I don't know if those play, but we'll see. Okay. This is from livescience.com. The James Webb Telescope spots more than 100 new asteroids between Jupiter and Mars, and some of them are heading towards Earth. Yeah, we're keeping track of Apophis, which is supposed to hit us in 2029. Well, not hit us, but get close. Here, is it over this shoulder or that shoulder? Whatever. It's up there. Our counting down to Apophis, but there's other junk out there that can slam into us and ruin our picnic. This is from Shamalia Kuthonor. Astronomers analyzing active archival images from the James Webb Space Telescope have discovered an unexpectedly vast population of the smallest asteroids ever seen in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The finding could lead to a better tracking of the tiny but powerful space rocks that are likely to approach Earth. The newfound asteroids range in size from that of a bus to several stadiums. The tiny compared to the massive space rock that wiped out most of the dinosaurs, but they nevertheless pack a significant punch. Only a decade ago, an asteroid just tens of meters the size took everyone by surprise when it exploded over Chelyabinsk, Russia, and released 30 times more energy than the atomic bomb detonated over Hiroshima in World War II. These so-called decameter asteroids, or decameter asteroids, if you want to say it that way, collide with Earth 10,000 times more frequently than the larger counterparts, but their small size makes it challenging for surveys to detect them well in advance. In recent years, a team of astronomers, including Julian DeWitt, an associate professor of planetary science at MIT, that's in Boston, has been testing a computational intensive method to identify passing asteroids in a telescope image of faraway stars. By applying this method to thousands of JWST images, which is short for, I must have just said that term and they shortened it to JWST. By applying this method to thousands of JWST images of the host star in about 40 light years distant TRAPPIST-1 system, which is the best studied planetary system beyond our own, researchers have found 8 previously known and 138 new decameter asteroids in the main asteroid belt. Among them, 6 appear to have been gravitationally nudged by nearby planets into trajectories that will bring them close to Earth. An early unedited release of the findings was published December 9th in the Journal of Nature. We thought we'd just detect a few new objects, but we detected so many more than we expected, especially small ones. DeWitt said in the statement, it's a sign that we are probing a new population regime.
Oh yeah,
we're going to be counting rocks.
A new generation.
Be counting rocks in space. There's a rock. Let's give it a name.
A new rock was born.
Let's call it.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, let's call that one Barney. Let's call that one Fred, because they're the Flintstones. Anyway, just making rock jokes. Rock jokes. Thank you, Raj. Or the next study. For the next study, DeWitt and his colleagues compiled roughly 93 hours worth of JWST images of the TRAPPIST-1 system in order to enhance faint, fast-moving objects like asteroids above the background noise. While such an approach rarely works for objects with unknown orbits, the team bypassed the limitation by using powerful graphics processing units, or GPUs, to rapidly sift through the large databases and enabling a fully blind search across all possible directions to locate the newly discovered asteroids, then stacking the images. Ooh, it's a cool picture. Well, it's cool if you like pictures of rocks going different directions. Scientists can now spot asteroids in the main belt as 10 meters across, with it as small as 10 meters across. It's like, size of the shroom. That's very small. I mean, in space, think about how vast space is. This is totally new, unexplored space we've been entering. Literally unexplored space, right? Thanks to modern technologies, study lead author Artem Danoy, a research scientist at MIT's Earth, Atmospheric and Planetary Sciences Department, said in his statement, it's an example of what we can do as a field when we look at the data differently. Sometimes there's a big payoff, and this is one of them. The newfound asteroids, which are remnants of collisions among bigger, kilometer-sized space rocks are the tiniest yet to be detected by the main asteroid belt. JWST has proven. Oh, JWST is just a James Webb Space Telescope. Okay. I caught on. It only took me like 10 minutes, but I caught on. JWST has proven to be ideal for discovery, researchers say, thanks to the telescope's sharp infrared images that detect the asteroid's thermal emissions. These infrared emissions are much brighter than the faint sunlight reflected off the asteroid's surfaces, the type of visible light that traditional surveys typically rely on. Upcoming JWST observations will focus on 15 to 20 faraway stars for at least 500 hours, which could lead to the discovery of thousands of more decameter asteroids in our solar system, according to the new study. That's right. They only discovered these ones because they kept it pointed in one direction for a long period of time, and these things went through it, right? So there's more out there. These just happen to be the ones they saw in that one particular period of time. Our newer telescopes will also help uncover thousands of small asteroids in our solar system. Chief among them is the Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile, which now, starting next year, will use the world's largest digital camera to photograph the southern sky every night for at least a decade, capturing images that each cover an equivalent of 40 full moons. The high frequency and resolution are expected to detect up to 2.4 million asteroids, nearly double the current catalog within the first 6 months. High expectations, but that's a lot of counting, right? Oh, let me go with the asteroids. Who's counting asteroids? Oh, darn it, you should have said anything. I was at 300,406. I gotta start over.
Yeah.
We now have a way of. Oh, it's only 2.4 million. Sorry, you couldn't get to 300 million. At some point, though, right? We now have a way of spotting these small asteroids that we are much farther away, so we can move to more precise orbital tracking, which is key for planetary defense. And it goes on to explain the author, give him a short biography. Shamila Kurt Turner is a Seattle-based science journalist covering astronomy, astrophysics, and space exploration. I would say follow her on X, but X is a cesspool. Don't follow anybody on X. There's other ways to follow people.
Yep.
Everybody's getting off X. I just saw Jelly Roll get off X because he saw it was a sewer. So,
And then
if Jelly Roll's leaving,
I don't know why politicians are still on Twitter, but I think it's probably because, as usual, politicians are always 10 years behind on everything that's going on. So it's going to take them 10 years to realize. It took them 10 years to get on Twitter, and it's going to take them 10 years to get off Twitter.
Yeah. They like to see what kind of abuse is out there. Although what it does is it brings out these potential, idiots who want to shoot people. It brings them out in the open, right? They start threatening politicians live on the air, like, hey, I'm going to get you, buddy. Yeah, I guess that's what it's good for, but I've never... I used Twitter for like 5 minutes 10 years ago, and I gave up. It's like, what a waste of time. Just a bunch of idiots yelling at each other all at once. Anyway, there's your news from space. Back to you.
All right, let's go into... not very weird, but we did kind of cover this yesterday. It was the 35 years of the first anniversary of the first Simpsons episode. And now we're going to talk about the show and what wacky and weird stuff they probably did and how... I don't know who this is with, but I think it's an interview with somebody. And we'll find out when I read this article. This is from Alex Reed on The Guardian. From launching what an inexplicable Christmas show to wowing the public and then being widely derided, the meta cartoon The Simpsons changed TV forever, and now some say it's back to being its best. Simpsons first aired 35 years ago on the 17th of December 1989, with a Christmas special originally scheduled to run 8th in the series, but brought forward because the ugly animation on the planned debut episode was so disliked it was shuffled to last place. With a scheduled autumn star already delayed, the creators had to begin by airing their festive episode, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, in mid-March. Despite this fumbling start, however, the series was an instant hit. I guess it is pretty ugly when you think about it. After Christmas show aired, I had a Simpsons jacket. I was at Disney World and people were approaching me asking me if they could buy it, said Al Jean, who co-wrote the first series and is the show's executive producer today. If they'd all seen the special, it was this phenomenon. Everybody knows the story of The Simpsons. And if you don't, I guess we'll tell you. And not just the internal structure of the typical, if bright yellow American nuclear family interacting with a vast cast of characters in mysteriously located Springfield. Rather, the external narrative. Era-defining 1990s cartoon sitcom marries critical and popular acclaim, then after a decade, the quality wobbles, then it falls off a cliff, not so much jumping the shark as jet skiing over a school of them. Take your pick from Homer being sexually molested by a panda, jockeys as a bloodthirsty elves, Marge getting breast implants, and the list goes on. The fact that it's still in production today and on its 36th season, with its 37th already commissioned but not getting cancelled yet, is a source of wonder and despair for some golden era curmudgeons. Yet there is an audience for modern Simpsons, people who love it, some who even prefer it to earlier seasons. Other aficionados argue that the series is undergoing a modern renaissance, a second golden age after the struggle of the middle season. I mean, it's bound to happen. You gotta keep going down until it comes up again. It's a circle.
Right.
We're just so bad it's good level. I haven't been there during the golden era. I'll just say it didn't feel like that at the time, said Gene. That only first season staffers still in the writing room today. There's a show from a season 3 that I think of all the time. Homer at the Bat. We had 2 scripts reads. There was the second, and it was dead silent. It was the worst read ever. Mike Reese, Gene's co-showrunner at the time, and I looked at each other like, we're going to get fired. Instead, the guest star loaded episodes were inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, so they thought it was crap. But everyone loved it.
Wow.
So this is exactly it, right? That's exactly the... If you're going to take anything away from this story is... There's somebody out there who likes that your least favorite episode, and you're just going to have to accept that.
Animation saves the day a lot of times on those shows. Yeah.
The Baseball Hall of Fame in 2017, it was inducted, and an all-time fan favorite for a lot of people. September, do you remember this episode? Season 3, is that
it's the one where Burns hires a bunch of ringers and then, major league players, and Homer is the guy hitting all the home runs because he's got a special bat. I don't totally remember that. Yeah.
It's funny because his name's Homer, too. I mean, he should be good at baseball, I would argue.
Right.
September season 36 premiere, Bill tongue-in-cheek, and The Simpsons finale, featuring the externally 10-year-old Bart finally turning 11. Congratulations, Bart. Poked fun at the supposed decline. Conan O'Brien himself, a former Simpsons writer, joked, when the first episode aired in 1989, viewers agreed on one thing: it wasn't as fuzzy as it used to be. Get it?
Yeah.
Get the joke?
Wasn't as fuzzy?
No. Its very first episode, people were already complaining that it wasn't as good as it used to be. It was its first episode. Right. Yeah. Early
that's what
on,
they say about Saturday Night Live. The same people are like,
Yeah.
hey, Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live isn't funny anymore, says the person who never watches the show. Okay.
Early on,
That's
we're
usually
already
what's
making
happening, right?
fun of ourselves for being a hit, said Gene. We had a joke about Simpsons t-shirts in season 2. Some people talk about how Lisa got too wordy and brainy. That happens in the Christmas show, when she eloquently rebuffs her aunt's insults of Homer. So I guess we jumped the shark in Act 3 of the first episode. John Vitti, one of the key early Simpsons writers, who worked on classics such as Mr. Plow, I remember that one, Cape Fear, Lisa's Substitute, has sympathy for the creative teams that followed. One of the really early marching orders Simpson writers got was, every episode should be different from any episode that's been done before. And of course, when you get to episode 300, that's not a realistic goal. So many good people have done the show now. It's unlikely you'll have a great idea nobody has done before. Even if it hasn't been done on The Simpsons, right? It's been done somewhere else. So people just say, hey, you're copying an episode of All in the Family. Of course we are. We're the fucking Simpsons. We have 1 million episodes. We're going to copy everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice we got 4 fingers and nobody gets older? You ever notice that too? Yeah.
They're
At
going
least
to
her dog doesn't talk.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to wind up right in the 3rd time Lisa gets a pony. VT has not been involved in the show since returning to co-write The Simpsons movie in 2007, but he defends the current product. When people say the show's not as good now as it used to be, we were hearing that from the 2nd season, and I think it's pretty provable that seasons 2, 3, 4 are better than season 1. Yeah, a lot of people actually consider that the best time. I think whenever they updated the animation was always when it got better. But I mean, I think that time during the Simpsons movie was a good time as well. I don't know what season that was. I feel like that was season 10 or something. Nevertheless, Biddy does touch on his concern about how characters' traits become simplified and exaggerated, a process known as Flandersization. Over the years, Christian people have turned on Ned Flanders, where they feel like he's a parody. It is, well, that's because he's actually a Christian, and Christians aren't Christian these days. That's my...
Right. Ned's a great guy, and Homer abuses him. We all know that.
Yeah. The original intent is well expressed in the 1989 Christmas episode. That he's a nice guy. He thinks he's Homer's pal, he's very happy with his own life, and it's good that Flanders never knows he drives Homer crazy or enjoys it, because that's an easy thing for a comedy writer to do. But with the quest for harder laughs, there's too much of The Simpsons for that to never have happened. And it was actually a revelation, but when Homer started to get meaner, our fans, including some of the internet guys, who might not associate with being incredibly character-driven, those viewers don't hate Homer, they hate you. It's an important lesson to remember as a writer. Why the hell are they making Homer so mean? So, this goes on for a long time, but I'll skip to the end. Literally, it's subtitled "The End?" ? Perhaps it's unfair to hold any show, including The Simpsons itself, to the standard of its sky-high peak. It was the most influential TV phenomenon of its era, and of all time, I would argue, whose legacy can be seen in Family Guy, South Park, Rick and Morty, and a host of others, which piled pressure onto the creators even as they were making it. It's noticeably less fun for me to watch than any other TV show, said VT, citing the associated stress of not wanting to let standards slip. Yet, even as the episodes count tick towards 800, a two-part Christmas special debuting in the US 35 years to the day since the first episode marks number 778 and 779, there are creaking signs of The Simpsons' mortality. Pamela Hayden, voice of blue-haired dweeb Milhouse, school bully Jimbo, and Rod and Todd Flanders, is hanging up her microphone. His poignantly well-timed exit, season 36 premiere, Bart's birthday, epitomizes the best of the modern Simpsons' daring concepts, golden era nods, sharp meta-commentary, and some of the worst, all-consumingly self-referential and shoehorned celebrity cameos. Hi, John Cena. Bye, Tom Hanks. But it's alarming how Milhouse, voiced superbly for so long, now sounds rather less like a 10-year-old boy and more like a 70-something voice actor. It's almost like it is a 70-something voice actor. It's a poignant reminder that even the Simpsons cannot outlast forever. For some fans, an eventual ending is long overdue. For others, the ultimate finale will still make for an emotional goodbye. If Hayden has picked up an apt time to bow out, the hope is that The Simpsons too can eventually find a perfect note on which to say farewell. And to be honest, there's so many episodes, you could probably start a kid watching the show at season 1 and they'll be 80 by the time they finish the last season of Simpsons, whenever that is. So it can be, you don't need to make any more episodes. You're good forever. Just
see these voice. Go ahead.
No, I was done.
Oh, these voice actors should have thought ahead, like Mel Blanc, right? Mel Blanc's son took over as Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd, right?
Yeah.
And same with Jim Henson. Jim Henson's son took over as Kermit the Frog. And so, yeah, these Simpsons voice actors should have been raising kids this whole time, teaching them how to talk like their character, and they would just keep it in perpetuity, right? Bugs Bunny didn't have to die, and neither did Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I do want to make the point of that Simpsons is a show that is about change, right? It's always trying to change it up and make you go, what the hell was that? I mean, like I said, it's a wacky show in its depths. It is wacky and weird, okay? So, but it reminds me of what I think about Doctor Who fans, right? Doctor Who is also a show about changing. Literally, the character regenerates and turns into a new actor,
right.
You know? But people get angry when there's changes. Why are there changes? I don't like this. You changed the voice actor of The Simpsons. What? March doesn't sound right. It's like, of course. Welcome to reality, dude. I don't know. But you can't
That's the way it
please
goes.
everyone, I think, is the general kind of lesson of this article. You can't please everyone.
Yep.
So you should just do your best, and there will be somebody who likes the least favorite episode, and make the show for that guy. Make the show for that one
A lot of
person who's
shows-
gonna like the episode.
Right. And a lot of shows end because of the contract disputes of their talent. But
Yeah.
you don't even know the faces of most of these people. I mean, you do know them. I mean, Harry Shearer. Everybody knows
If I
what
saw
Harry
them,
Shearer
I know.
is.
Hey,
or
I know that guy. You know. Yeah.
Hank, people know who Hank Azaria is. They've been in movies. I mean, Harry
Yeah.
Shearer was
They're
in
very
Spinal Tap,
famous,
you know?
not just in the voice acting scene, but they've been.
Marsha
yeah,
Wallace. Marsha Wallace, who's dead now. She played Miss Krabappel. Anyway, she was on the Bob Newhart show. Phil Hartnell was on Saturday Night Live, and he played, Lionel Hutz and with Troy McClure. You don't see them anymore because Phil Hartman died, and they just retired those characters. That's another thing they could do if they're not main characters. You can't do that in Millhouse. That would be, what happened to Millhouse? He was squashed by a giant alien. I don't know. Anyway, I guess it's on to me, or the
Yep,
story's
that's
over.
it.
or
On to
what?
this day in history.
Sorry to interrupt. This day in history. Bum, 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 bum. As we move along here briskly, I have not read any of these, so it'll be a total surprise to me. I was paying attention and coughing a lot. Wow, there's a lot of shit happening. A lot of shit happened on December 17th, so we're going to keep scrolling down. Oop, or 18th. It's the 18th. That was 17th was yesterday. December 18th, 1737, famed Italian violin maker Antonio Stradivari died in Cremona. Stradivarius violins, very famous. There's a few around still. Very, 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 very valuable. Now, I was told when I was a kid that my grandpa had a Stradivarius, but I never saw it. Supposedly my Aunt Gail had it. Oh no, she did have it. I don't think it was a Stradivarius. I never even looked and see what kind it was. Anyway, in 1787, not supposedly she had it. She did have it. I heard her play it. I just never thought about look. I didn't know what a Stradivarius was when I was a kid. I was like, that's a really old violin. But it probably wasn't a Stradivarius. It was just family, what do you want to call it? Urban legend. 1787, New Jersey became the third state admitted to the United States when it ratified the U.S. Constitution. So happy birthday, New Jersey. Keep looking at the sky, waiting for the aliens to get you. 1886, American baseball player Ty Cobb was born in Narrows, Georgia. He was once the all-time hit leader and base stealer. 1892, Petr Ilyich Tchaikovsky's ballet, The Nutcracker, was first presented at the Mariinsky Theater in St. Petersburg. I know that one. See, I can sing notes almost perfectly, right? No, just kidding. 1912, the discovery of fossil remains of the Piltdown Man. I'm the Piltdown Man. That could be a blues song. Baby, I'm the Piltdown Man. An extinct human species was announced at a meeting of the Geological Society of London, but the remains were later proved to be a fraud. The poor Piltdown Man. It was just a guy died 3 weeks ago. 1913, Willy Brandt, leader of the Social Democratic Party of Germany from 1964 to 1987, won the Nobel Prize for Peace. Well, anyway, he was born on this day in 1913. Anyway, he was a Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany and West Germany, as you know, that's what it was called, the Federal Republic of Germany. Anyway, so Willy Brandt was born in this day, 1913. 1917, German General Erich Ludendorff ordered the consolidation of the country's leading motion picture studios to form UFA, Universum Film Acting Gesellschaft. That's happened in Germany in 1917. 1943, British rock guitarist Keith Richards was born. Happy birthday to Keith Richards. Keith Richards turning 82 today. Long live Keith Richards. And we got to keep thinking about this, kids. What kind of world are we going to leave Keith Richards? In 1946, American film director Steven Spielberg enjoyed great critical and commercial success with such movies as Jaws. We know who Steven Spielberg is, right? If we got to explain him, well, you're not into pulp culture at all.
He's very
anyway,
famous
happy
director.
birthday.
If you don't know who he is, go read a book. I don't know. Yeah, like.
Yeah, it's Steven Spielberg's birthday and Keith Richards' birthday, and also Brad Pitt's birthday. He was born in 1963, so happy to Brad Pitt. That old bastard. Turning 61. And also birthday, let's see. 1966, the TV special How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That adaptation of Dr. Seuss's classic children's book aired for the first time and became a holiday staple with James Earl Jones singing the Grinch song. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. See, I can only do hour of the day. In 1997, Kim Dae-jung was elected president of South Korea, the first opposition leader in the country's history to win that position. The first opposition leader? That's a pretty interesting term. You're opposite of what? I just don't, that doesn't define anything for me. The opposition of what? Being blown up in a volcano? I don't know. But he was opposed to something. He was opposed to it. Whatever you had, man, he was opposed to it. I didn't like that stuff. Anyway, he was the first one. Probably why? Because it's easy to be against stuff, but make yourself popular. But if you have no ideas, people are like, shit, he ain't got no ideas. He's just against stuff. 2011, Czech playwright, poet, and political dissident Václav Havel, who served as president of Czechoslovakia from 89 to 92 and 93 to 2003, and had been a prominent participation in the liberal reforms of 1968, which was known as the Prague Spring. He died in this day in 2011 in Hradec, Czech Republic. Doesn't say how old he was. I don't. He might have been quite old. 2019, Trump became the third U.S. president to be impeached. Enough Trump news. I'd rather talk about the crap I just took. 1865, slavery abolished in the United States. That's right, in the state. In 1865, by proclamation of the U.S. Secretary of State, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution outlawing slavery officially entered into force, having been ratified by the requisite states on December 6th. And, of course, slavery still exists, and we pretend it doesn't. Okay, so Paul Klee's birthday today, Swiss-German artist, Paul Klee, K-L-E-E, born December 18th, 1879 in Muchenbusch, Switzerland, and died June 29th, 1940 in Locarno, Switzerland. So he only got 60 years, but he got to be famous. So there you go. Not a lot of people get that. Other birthdays today, Franz Ferdinand, Archduke of Austria. And, of course, he is the nation of Franz Ferdinand precipitated World War I. So that's what he's famous for, being assassinated along with his wife. Unfortunately for her, married a guy that was going to get shot. We always covered Paul Klee, Steven Spielberg, Brad Pitt. It is also Christina Aguilera's birthday. She was born in 1980. Christina Aguilera turning 44 today. Hardly seems possible. Where did the years go? Do you feel old yet? I do. And what day is it? What day it is? It is Answer the Telephone Like Buddy the Elf Day. How does Buddy the Elf answer the phone? Do you know? I guess I could look it up. But I sincerely don't know. So I've watched the movie. It says, Buddy the Elf was played by Will Ferrell in the 2003 movie Elf. Answering the phone like Buddy the Elf is not only surprises unsuspecting caller, but it brightens their day too. As your day goes along, it will most certainly brighten yours. Who can resist a giggle or smile and being elf-like? Simply answer the phone and say, insert name here, blank the elf, what's your favorite color? There you go. So you answer it and go.
Purple? I don't
If
know.
your name's Ezekiel, you say Ezekiel. Suckling pig. Roast suckling pig day. So that's kind of
Roast
depressing. They show
suckling
a baby
pig
pig
day.
with an apple in its mouth, which is supposed to inspire us. Suckling pig is just another name for baby pig. So
okay.
everybody's all excited about that, I guess, for some damn reason. Let's kill a baby. Yeah, I hope you're not a pro-lifer killing them big pigs, right? And it's National Twin Day. So if you got a twin, you can fake people out. If you're identical twins, you can fake people out all day long and laugh. So it's National Twin Day. Those are your days. Those are your things. Those are your weird happenings on these. December 18th, 2024 on Before Suckling Pig. Sounds obscene, doesn't it?
Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. You're
Hi.
you're breaking up there at the end, so. Right. Let's get the show before our internets explode. This has been Allison here from the Netherlands. Oh, there are days today. There are international days today. There's 2. So, it is International Migrants Day. Yep, those pesky people that we want to blame for all their problems who just want to go somewhere else. God forbid humans on the planet Earth want to live somewhere else. That's not allowed. You have to stay exactly where you're born, to the exact square meter that you were born, and stay there forever. No traveling. Anyways, today's International Migrants Day, where we can kind of spotlight and give invaluable contributions to millions of migrants all over the world who need our help, and highlight the role of their increasingly complex environment as more migration occurs. These people deserve better lives because they are people. And if they want to go live where you live, you shouldn't hate them for it. A lot of these migrants also die on the way trying to get to somewhere because of, environmental things, trying to cross the channel, they're bus crashing or something. So there is that information on those guys.
They got locked in the back, but
yeah.
They got locked in the back of a travel trailer.
Exactly. Then it's also Arabic Language Day, which is in Arabic, so I have to translate it because I can't read Arabic. It's the UN observance of Arabic, a language that is quite old and also spoken by over 450 million people. It's around 25 countries, yet only 3% of all content online is available in Arabic because brown people speak it. That's my idea anyway.
I don't know. There's a lot of rich people that speak Arabic.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to do something about it,
but there's still only 3% of it is in Arabic. So take this day to
those rich
learn
people
some Arabic
in,
words,
those rich
learn
people in
to
Saudi
read some
Arabia.
Arabic words, and enhance everyone's experience of Arabic online. There you go. Those are your UN days observances, or whatever you want to call them. And this is, yet again, this has been Ali from the Netherlands and Raj from the US, the west coast of the US. We will see you tomorrow for Thursdays 13, where we're going to count down, I guess, terrible plane crashes or something.
I haven't even got a list yet. I have no list.
Yeah, we haven't
tied
ourselves down to that list, but most likely that could be the list. We'll see you for that. So make sure you're subscribed to the Ali and Raj channel. Turn on the notification bell so you remember and are notified to watch tomorrow's episode and whatever episode you can catch on the internet when we go live. And like this video, comment down below. Comment down below. I'm trying to think of a cool thing to comment down below.
Do you have a twin?
Yeah, do you have a twin? And if you had a twin, how different would your life be? And we'll see you then. Here is our Mic drop moment.
God rest ye merry billionaires, let
Nobody will want you to hear this
dismay.
song.
Forget your workers' families going hungry
Right.
on this day, and save yourselves
Good
from
old
income tax.
Christmas carols.
Yeah.
Oh, tidings of corruption and greed, corruption and greed. Oh, tidings.
I mean, that's kind of what Christmas has become as well. It's a capitalist holiday where you spend your money.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.